running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Let me say it one more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. I like to party with the people. Make your next thing a big one. I conform to you and your needs, whatever the entertainment, music-wise needs to be. I'll play what you want. Let's see. Oh, also, I've been doing gaming online, streaming. Yeah, playing games online. If you look at the hashtag next to me, there's a new hashtag flashing through. If you're watching the video version of this, you'll see it's hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. Find it on Facebook at KeysDAN Gaming or YouTube at KeysDAN, and then on Twitch, twitch.tv/KeysDAN. This week's shows on Friday nights, I'll be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. That's my one public show going on right now. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Although I have been booking some weddings for the end of the year and even into next year. So yeah, I'm still break out of this coronavirus quarantine. Sure, we are. No more COVID-19, please. Thank you. All right, scientists, get to work. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, August 29th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman dies at 43. Actor Chadwick Boseman has died at 43 after a battle with colon cancer. The Black Panther star died at home in Los Angeles on Friday. His publicist confirmed to the Associated Press. Boseman starred as T'Challa in Marvel's superhero blockbuster Black Panther, and he rose to fame after portraying Jackie Robinson in 42. He also played James Brown and Thurgood Marshall. In 2016, Boseman was diagnosed with cancer, and he filmed numerous movies, quote, during and between, end quote, surgeries and chemotherapy. His family said, quote, a true fighter, Chadwick quote, a true fighter, Chadwick persevered through it all and brought you many of the films you have come to love so much, end quote. Boseman's family said, quote, it was the honor of his career to bring King T'Challa to life in Black Panther, end quote. This is according to the Associated Press and the New York Times. Number 2, Kenosha Police Union releases account of Jacob Blake shooting. The Kenosha Professional Police Association, the union representing police officers in Kenosha, Wisconsin, released what they called, quote, the actual and undisputed, end quote, account of the events that preceded the shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man who was shot by officers multiple times on Sunday, CNN and NPR report. The account says Blake had a knife and, quote, forcefully fought, end quote. The officers trying to arrest him, putting one in a headlock. The statement also said that the officers failed to subdue Blake after twice shooting tasers at him. Blake's uncle, Justin Blake, said the union's version was, quote, garbage, end quote, and his nephew didn't have a weapon, while legal defense called the statement, quote, overblown, end quote. Rayshawn White, a witness who recorded a brief video of the incident, said Blake did not pose a threat and that officers put Blake in a headlock while one, quote, punched him in the ribs, end quote. This is according to CNN and NPR. Number 3, FDA chief fires new chief spokesperson over plasma debacle. The Food and Drug Administration Commissioner, Stephen Hahn, ousted 2 communications experts, including chief spokesperson Emily Miller, on Friday, following a messaging debacle over the use of plasma to treat COVID-19. Miller was hired by the White House just 11 days prior. She was reportedly responsible for a press release announcing the FDA's emergency authorization of convalescent plasma as a COVID-19 treatment, packaging it as, quote, another achievement in administration's fight against pandemic, end quote. Hahn admitted Tuesday he actually oversold the plasma treatment effectiveness. The White House quickly touted a, quote, major therapeutic breakthrough, end quote. And President Trump promised plasma would, quote, save thousands and thousands of lives, end quote. The treatment has not yet been shown to be widely effective. The other spokesperson, Wayne Pines, recommended Hahn, quote, correct the record, end quote. Officials denied Pines' termination was related to the plasma incident. This is according to the New York Times. Number 4, alleged Kenosha shooter's extradition hearing delayed. Kyle Rittenhouse did not appear for his extradition hearing Friday after requesting his presence be waived as he hires a legal team, leading his hearing to be delayed for 30 days. The 17-year-old is charged with killing Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, and Anthony Huber, 26, and injuring Gage Rosenkurtz, 26, during a protest in Kenosha, Washington, Tuesday night. Rittenhouse is from and was arrested in Illinois, so he will have to be extradited to Wisconsin to face charges of intentional homicide and reckless homicide, amongst other counts. Investigators say they identified Rittenhouse on a video holding a gun and shooting at protesters. Protests have gone on since Kenosha police shot Jacob Blake, a black man, on Sunday, and turned violent when armed militias came downtown. This is according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and The Week. Number 5, get your knee off our neck protesters march on Washington. Thousands of demonstrators gathered for the, quote, get your knee off our necks, end quote, march in Washington, D.C. on Friday, planned months ago to coincide with the 57th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s, quote, I have a dream, end quote, speech. The headline speakers included Reverend Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King III. And there were speeches from the families of Jacob Blake, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, and Eric Garner. Quote, like those who marched before us, we are standing up, end quote, said Sharpton, against police, lawmakers, and, quote, the people and systems that have kept us down for years, end quote. People in the U.S. are, quote, finally acknowledging that Black lives matter, end quote, said King. But, quote, police brutality and misconduct is still occurring. It is beyond time for immediate action, end quote. This is according to ABC News and USA Today. Number 6, Trump blasts protesters, Harris in New Hampshire for rally speech. As campaign rally in Londonderry, New Hampshire on Friday night, President Trump gave a speech in which he called protesters demonstrating against police brutality, quote, thugs, end quote, and, quote, anarchists, end quote, who are just, quote, looking for trouble, end quote, and, quote, don't even know who George Floyd is, end quote. Trump said that Senator Rand Paul, Republican Kentucky, was attacked by protesters Friday near the White House and claimed Paul and his wife would be, quote, in very bad shape or dead, end quote, if not for the police presence in the area. During the speech, the president also targeted the Democratic vice presidential nominee, Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat, California. Trump said he wants, quote, to see the first woman president also, end quote, but, quote, I don't want to see a woman president get into that position the way she do it, and she's not competent, end quote. This is according to Reuters and The Hill. Number 7, Pelosi says White House's $1.3 trillion coronavirus relief bill suggestion is not enough. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on Friday said President Trump is willing to sign a $1.3 trillion coronavirus relief bill. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat to California, said in a statement that the figure was not enough to meet Americans' needs and repeated her call for a $2.2 trillion bill. In Pelosi's statement, the speaker argued Republicans are not meeting the Democrats' desired numbers for coronavirus testing and contact tracing. Pelosi also said the GOP is in, quote, disarray, end quote, citing reports that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, is targeting a $500 billion plan. The House in May passed a $3.4 trillion relief bill, but the Republican-led Senate did not take it up. This is according to Reuters and The Hill. Number 8, researchers confirmed first case of coronavirus reinfection in the U.S. Researchers confirmed a COVID-19 reinfection in the U.S. and found the patient experienced more severe symptoms when contracting the virus again. The first U.S. confirmed reinfection comes after anecdotal evidence of the second infections after researchers in Hong Kong confirmed a reinfection for the first time earlier this week. A 25-year-old Reno, Nevada man tested positive for COVID-19 in April and showed mild symptoms. He tested positive again in May with more severe symptoms. Researchers confirmed it was a separate infection because the second virus had a different genetic strain. The discovery has implications for coronavirus vaccine development. Promising vaccines have so far produced COVID-19 antibodies in human trials, but these cases of reinfections suggest antibodies gained from catching COVID-19 don't necessarily guarantee long-term immunity. Scientists said more studies are needed to fully understand the possibility of reinfection. This is according to Reuters and SSRN. Number 9, UAE leader issues decree formally ending economic boycott against Israel. Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the ruler of Abu Dhabi and leader of the and leader of the United Arab Emirates, issued a decree Saturday formally ending the Federation's economic boycott against Israel. The order comes on the heels of the U.S. brokered deal opening up relations between the UAE and Israel earlier this month. Israelis and Israeli firms can now do business in the UAE, and the decree also allows for the purchase and trade of Israeli goods. As was the case when the deal was originally announced, some Palestinians criticized the order for undermining the efforts of the boycott, divest, and sanction movement, which targets Israel. Historically, UAE law stated the recognition of Israel would only occur if Palestine became an independent state. This is according to the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. Number 10, NBA playoffs to resume Saturday. NBA officials announced Friday that playoff games will resume Saturday. Numerous games were postponed this week as players boycotted in response to the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The decision to continue the season was made, quote, with the understanding, end quote, that the league will enact several commitments. The NBA and its players have agreed to establish a social justice coalition that will be, quote, focused on a broad range of issues, end quote, including increased access to voting and police and criminal justice reform. Teams will work with city officials to convert arena facilities into voting locations or voter registration sites for the 2020 election. The NBA will also work to include ads during games, quote, dedicated to promoting greater civic engagement, end quote, in elections. The Milwaukee Bucks and Orlando Magic will restart the postseason at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is according to CNN and NBA. That's 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, August 29th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. No news is good news. Well, some news is okay. So sad about Chadwick Boseman dying at 43. My goodness. I usually don't editorialize these things, but he was a great actor and from what by all accounts that I've seen, a really decent fellow. Going to different schools and giving speeches and really uplifting people. Using his character as T'Challa is one thing, but also being just generally a good person by all accounts. I'm so sad that Chadwick Boseman has lost his life to colon cancer. That's sad news. If you have some good news, I encourage you to drop me some comments. Let me know what you're up to at this time. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386. And you can check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com.